Opportunities to take your winning fantasy squad to the top are about to run thin. So we're going to take a few looks at some waiver wire targets that you can stash now and get this paper later on the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It's not Four Nations time. It's time to take your team to the championship. We're tapping into the top waiver wire targets for the upcoming couple of weeks. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're back to business building winners on the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, your daily 30-minute source for fantasy hockey takes, NHL news, and of course, betting breakdowns. I am joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele, Rodin. You guys know what it is on this side of the microphone. It's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Salute, shout out, much love to the everydayers, holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers to FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager hits. Mr. Rodin, things haven't been so pretty for your boy over here this season. However, that doesn't mean we haven't had our eyes on a bunch of really good waiver options that have been helping our listeners out there. And that's what we're doing today. Yesterday, we had to talk Four Nations. Sidney Crosby, by the way, looks like he's going to be good to go. So all that speculation, Sid is in. However, there's a number of players that I think some GMs right now might be sleeping on that you could go out there and grab and stash and keep for what should be another good couple of weeks after the Four Nations break. So I got a number of different players of varying ownership levels, who you're looking at and why, for someone that you could add to your team right now.
Yeah, a lot of good players that you can still take advantage on and add to your fantasy team, even regardless of the week off with the Four Nations face-off taking place. This is going to be a 2-week matchup with any opponent that you're going up against in your fantasy league. Yep. And I'll start off with the hardest player probably to acquire, the least one that is out or available right now, and it's Jonathan Huberdeau of the Calgary Flames. He's rostered at 66% on ESPN, 45% on Yahoo, and it varies on Fantrax and other platforms as well. But if he's still available in your league, you got to target this player. I mean, he's completely revitalized his game after an abysmal season last year in Calgary, after hearing the outside noise, him, being traded from Florida, obviously for Matthew Tkachuk. They go on and win a Stanley Cup after that deal done as well. But he's really changed his game in Calgary, and he's really shaped up to be a great trade for them alongside Mackenzie Weegar. He's got 41 points in 55 games so far this season. They're on that bubble for a playoff spot right now. 34 hits, 45 blocks, 103 shots, 20.4 shooting percentage. His first time in 3 seasons that he scored 20-plus goals. So, it's taken him a while to get here and kind of reestablish himself as a productive offensive weapon after the first 2 seasons with Calgary. I think right now, 41 points, 55 games, he's never going to get back to 115, which is the huge outlier in his tenure in the National Hockey League. Regardless, he's showing us that there's still a lot left in the tank right now. Calgary is not to be just glanced over, looked over right now. Dustin Wolf's doing a great job. The blue line is secure in Mackenzie Weegar, Rasmus Anderson, Nazem Kadri, and Jonathan Huberdeau, the veterans right now. They're getting it done in Calgary.
Can't disagree with you at all. This has been a situation for a player fantasy-wise that has definitely been one of those hot topic, hot button issues that have driven fantasy GMs a little bit crazy. And this year, Steele, a big-time resurrection for his value. He's once again relevant. Buyer beware, though, not for anything that you've said is wrong, only because of these 2 reasons. The Calgary Flames, number one, have only scored more goals than the Nashville Predators and Anaheim Ducks this season. They sit 30th out of 32 teams with 145 goals scored and can really, if it hasn't been for Dustin Wolf in terms of the standings at least, fantasy is lots of value here in other pieces. Dustin Wolf has saved this team's bacon on a number of nights. That's very clear. The other thing that's a little bit of a concern for me with Calgary players in general, Huberdeau, though, I'm with you, I'm not disagreeing, just kind of throwing some food for thought at the board. They have the 11th toughest schedule down the stretch, so they're in the top half of difficulty for schedule down the stretch. Just wanted to throw those 2 out there. I don't know what you think about this one, Steele. because Anthony Cirelli is a player that has been talked about a lot for a good stream week to week. You pick him up when he's hot, and then you let him go. This Tampa Bay Lightning team is looking really good. I watched them over the weekend against Detroit. They snapped their hot streak. They were all over the ice. They're getting scoring from a bunch of different lines, and that's what I wanted to mention with Cirelli, because I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet that last night he was centering that top line. Let me just double check that. They were throwing him up there with Hagel, and they were with Gensel. What I'm trying to say is John Cooper has been shuffling the lines a little bit, and Anthony Cirelli has been putting up points. 20 goals, 22 assists, 442 points. He's on pace for 65 points this season, Steele. That's a career high. Big 1 goal, 1 assist performance. He's got 4 points in his last 5 games. I'm liking Cirelli's game right now. The confidence boost from the Four Nations is intriguing, and Tampa Bay is looking really dangerous. So I want a piece of them. Nick Paul, Cirelli, somehow I want a piece of the Lightning while they're looking this good.
Look, we've talked about wanting pieces of those best teams in the National Hockey League, the Washington Capitals, the Edmonton Oilers, the Winnipeg Jets, of course. And the Tampa Bay Lightning are becoming one of those teams right now where you want a piece of them. They have 4 different 25-plus goal scorers on their team right now. Braden Point, Jake Gensel, Brandon Hagel, and Nikita Kucherov all have 25-plus points. Right there behind them, 25-plus goals. Right there behind them, Anthony Cirelli with 20-plus goals on the season. He has 42 points, like you said. He's getting the job done right now. He's got 5 points in his last 4 games. And you just want a piece of Tampa Bay because they've got a lot to offer right now. Even though this is probably the toughest division, even though this Eastern Conference race is tightening up real hard right now.
It's true.
You want somebody who's gonna, be a depth scorer. Nick Paul is doing that as well when he's in the lineup and he's producing. So Anthony Cirelli, a very good pick. Before we get to break, I just want to throw Tyler Toffoli's name out. Like you said, with the Calgary Flames being the 11th hardest remaining schedule in the National Hockey League, the San Jose Sharks have the 3rd toughest schedule in the remaining regular season in the NHL. So I just wanted to start off by saying that. But again, his percentages vary on different platforms. He's owned at 74% on ESPN. He's owned at 35% on Yahoo. So it differentiates drastically from these 2 different platforms. But if you're on Yahoo and he's available, rostered at 35%, I really like this player regardless of the schedule. 5-game point streak for him, 6 points in his last 5 games. And like I just said, with Anthony Cirelli, you want some of those depth veteran players, even regardless of the tough schedule. This San Jose team is really starting to turn things around for the better. Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, Zetterlund, and then Jake Wallman on the back end. They bring in some interesting goaltenders in the mix, and Askarov and Gorgiev. So it's going to take a while for them to be a contender, obviously, in this league. But I really like the way they've turned it around, shaping around Celebrini, Will Smith, and those young guns they have, in their pool right now. So Tyler Toffoli, a great person to bring in and kind of shape these young minds in San Jose, and he's producing offensively right now. So you definitely want to get a piece if he's available.
Future is bright in San Jose, no doubt. The same can be said for the rest of the episode. We got a few more targets to take a look at. I really do think, Steele, that you just go out there, depending on your team. I'm not saying every single GM out there runs out and adds every player that we're mentioning, but it fits the mold. We don't know what your team looks like. We can help you out. Hit us in the DMs, the comments. We're on IG. We're on Twitter. We're everywhere you need us. Hit us in the DMs. Drop us a comment on the YouTube channel. We're here to help. That's what this is about, getting you guys to the top. 30 minutes in and out every single day. No bets coming up today, but I think we're going to have a few in the chamber for tomorrow's episode because the puck is about to drop on this Four Nations tournament, Steele. And we'll be sprinkling a few degenerate bets for the brand, baby. That's coming up after the break, where today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy with Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Have you ever been in the spot where you needed to hire yesterday? The pressure can be on, and every day the right person missing them, it's a setback. So that's why you need to head over right now and speed up the hiring process with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored dollar job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast by saying you heard about this on this show. Terms and conditions apply. You're hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day, no matter what. Even with the Four Nations face-off taking place, we're going to help you with those waiver wire targets, the best options for your matchups on a weekly basis. And we're doing that just for today's episode in Four Nations face-off. There's still a lot of people out there that you can target to better your chances of winning your matchups, winning your fantasy league in the 2024-25 season. Flip over to you, my friend. Who is the next guy that you were taking a look at, regardless of this week being off?
Yeah, so I got to throw a little bit of love to Mason Marchment. He's returned from his injury.
Yeah.
He's scored twice. And I think what's really intriguing me the most about Mason Marchment, as I struggle to get this tab open, was the line that he is on. Mikael Granlund, Matt Duchene, and Mason Marchment on the left side, to me, is very, very intriguing and a very balanced attack. Mason Marchment is also catching second power play time. Stankoven, Lindell, Granlund, Jamie Benn. I kind of like that mix as well. The Dallas Stars are cooking on the offensive end as well. So that's just kind of, I'm going to get that in there because we've spoken about Mason Marchment actually, I think, at length. The other one I wanted to throw out there, until Jacob Markstrom comes back, Jake Allen is still a very viable goaltending fill-in. 4-3-0 over his last 7 games since Markstrom goes down. And I know the 4-3-0 record doesn't jump off the page, but how about a .934 save percentage and 2 shutouts? So I'm going to say the Devils have left him out to dry a little bit there, and there's still a ton of value in a good veteran goaltender on a team in the Devils that are still sitting third in the Metro Division, 2 points back of a good Carolina team. Why not get the starting goalie playing pretty good on a good team, Steele? So it's pretty simple there. 2 good players. Marchment, Allen, the ownership obviously higher for both. I do have Marchment's right here for fun. 32 on Yahoo out there. 67 on Fantrax, a bit trickier, but I have a feeling you're probably going to be able to get both those guys in most of your leagues.
2 + 2 = 4. It's just simple math right there. Jake Allen is the starter in New Jersey, and they're winning games right now. You know, there's a couple of inconsistent plays, but regardless, he's getting the dubs. He's getting the peripheral stats for those the goalie categories. And then alongside Mason Marchment, he's on the score sheet back like he never left. So those are 2 great guys that you throw out there right now that are available on different platforms. One of my guys that I want to talk about is actually one of your guys that you absolutely love. And maybe you felt, a little disrespected a little bit because he wasn't living up to expectations, but he is now, and that's Cole Perfetti of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes,
obviously struggled this season back in the early months, but he's really turned up his game significantly in the month or in 2025. He's up to 34 points in 56 games. He's a +15 right now. He's playing on that top 6 forward line, on the second line specifically with Vladislav Nemestikov and Nikolai Ehlers. He's got 6 points in his last 5 games. The peripheral stats are coming. The shooting percentage is coming along great. The hits, the blocks, they're at a career high right now. 49 hits, 38 blocks, 98 shots on the season. I just think he's getting that confidence right now. He's still a very young player, but he is available out there. He's rostered at 21% on ESPN and 27% on Yahoo. So he's available. He's out there. He's playing some great hockey right now. He's going to get a great week to you kind of just relax, rest up until February 22nd comes back around and the regular season gets going once again. But Cole Perfetti, 6 points in his last 5 games. I think he's really terrific the last couple of weeks for sure.
Let's not forget, this is a guy who just turned 23 years old.
Yeah.
Just starting to really get comfortable in the NHL. And I know I've been on him for a while and it's been taking some time. but that's what happens sometimes. Not every single top 10 pick. By the way, he was a 10th overall draft pick only 4 years ago. Not every team, 5 years ago, anyway, not every team has all their top prospects immediately blow the doors off the league. This is player development. It happens. And does that mean he's not going to live up to the overall expectation? Steele, this kid scored 185 points in his last 2 seasons combined in the O. He got it done immediately at the AHL level, and then he's taken some time. But very much like we were talking about with other players, the Winnipeg Jets top guns, you're not going to be able to get. So when a team is that good and the ownership is that high, the best you can do at times is going after those secondary pieces. Cole Perfetti fits the mold on a very good and dangerous Winnipeg Jets team. Steele, I'm going to get to my favorite ad of the next little bit, couple days after the break. But, and I'll spit out these words, I promise. I got a deep cut for you. Josh Doan over the last couple of games, and I know it's Josh Doan, and I understand that he doesn't exactly eat a ton of minutes and all of that. Just going to bring up the minutes here in a second. He's playing just under 14 of ice time per night, and that doesn't jump off the page, but you got to get nitty gritty. Not every single person that you and I are going to have to highlight. You're going to dig into the trenches and find some good pieces. And the main reason why I'm liking Josh Doan right now, aside from the fact that, he does have 4 points in his last 3 games. So that right there jumps off the page. It's where he's playing. Lawson Krause, Jack McBain, and Josh Doan, to me, Steele, is a very sneaky third line. The Utah Yeti, Mammoth, whatever they're going to be, Outlaw, have been playing really good hockey of late as well. So I wanted to come on here and give this team some credit. They're going to make a little bit of noise there for that second wild card spot, Steele. 57 points. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. 6 points back of Vancouver. So let's see what can happen. Josh Doan, deep cut. This is for deeper formats. You're looking for a little bit of a boost offensively. We know this kid also isn't afraid to throw his weight around at times. He can get you some penalty minutes as well. So I'm liking Josh Doan on a very deep cut. I don't even need to look at the ownership because it's like 1% and 2%, maybe 5%. He's out there. Take a look at their schedule and see what's good for them down the stretch. I believe they're pretty Utah Steele, 6th easiest schedule down the stretch. 3 games against the Blackhawks, 3 games against the Preds. They get the Ducks, the Sabres, the Blues, and the Kraken as well. I kind of like a lot of Utah pieces, but this one is definitely available.
Hey, Doan is definitely available out there, and 4 points in his last 2 games, like you said. Mm-hmm. He's producing right now, so you got to take a look at some of these deep cuts and guys who are for sure available in your fantasy leagues. One guy that I've actually a few times have streamed, have actually kept him on my team, I believe for at least the last 2 months now, Jason Zucker of the Buffalo Sabres. And I know I'm going with guys who probably have the toughest schedules in the remaining in the National Hockey League, guys from Buffalo, San Jose, Columbus, and so on. But Jason Zucker, regardless of the schedule, the proof is in the pudding right now. He is producing at an unbelievable rate. He's on pace to tie his career high of 64 points, which he got back in 2017 when he was with the Minnesota Wild. So he's playing some of his best hockey right now. He's in the top 6 forward group in Buffalo, playing alongside Alex Tuch and Ryan McLeod, who's also playing some of his best hockey. True. Jason Zucker's got 18 goals, 41 points in 52 games. He's a +2. He's shooting at a 19.1 shooting percentage right now. So by far the highest he's ever been. But like I said, he's still producing. So why fault him for that? 48 hits, 17 blocks, and 94 shots on net. And he's just producing points. The peripherals are okay. I think they could be a little bit better, but he's on the first power play unit. He's in the second lineup right now alongside Alex Tuch, who's a playmaker and a goal scorer as well. And he goes to all the dirty areas of the ice where a lot of people don't like to play the game. So Jason Zucker, I have him on 2 or 3 of my teams, at least 2 of my teams right now. And he's producing at a very great rate. So I think Jason Zucker, regardless of how hard the schedule is remaining for Buffalo, that top 6 forward group, they're firing because in the last 5 games, they've got 4 wins. They've been scoring 3 or 4 plus goals in the last 5 games. So, they're probably going to still miss a playoff spot, but they're not going to give up by any means.
Enough said. Value to be had, even though the team's not exactly super sexy. You got to dig into it, get into the trenches. Time's running out. NHL playoffs are looming. We got the trade deadline looming. 4 nations about to pop off. This is your daily 30-minute source to keep you up to date on all of it. We'll still have some bets sprinkled in, special guests coming. I know I've been teasing it. Your boy's been slacking on getting the guests, but I promise we got some coming, and then we'll keep it rolling all the way until that Stanley Cup is lifted. Tap into it.
And coming up next, you can find more waiver wire targets to go and add to your team and help you secure the win in your fantasy hockey league this season. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I absolutely love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance to win some money. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen. Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Make sure you share with your friends and family out there. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you've been showing us. Thank you so much for all of that. Flip, over to you, my friend. Who are you looking at next for this week off?
Speaking of a player who absolutely tore it up at every single level he's ever touched is Shane Wright. And the whole narrative around everything that's gone on with this kid has been covered at length. And the only one that really needs to be discussed is that he's here and he is playing good hockey. And the fact that he's somewhat buried, I think, in the attention pit of what Seattle is, especially for us East Coast guys. I don't think he's getting nearly enough love. Credit to you. I know you've spoken about him on Waiver Wire Mondays, I don't know, at least a couple of times because of what you've seen from him this season.
Yeah.
And how about right now? I've mentioned all of these angles for the most part. I'm liking the deployment, and maybe not everyone does, right? Jack McBain, Lawson Krause, and Josh Doan isn't exactly going to jump off the page, but there's value to be had in there playing well. Jared McCann, Burakovsky, and Shane Wright in the middle. I want a piece of that, just like I've said it all episode long. 31 points for Shane Wright in 54 games, only 56 shots on net. So I'd really like to see the confidence come, and I'd like to see the minutes come, and I think then you'll really see him produce. But how about this, Steele? I believe, 9 points in his last 8 games, and that's all I really need to say. Red hot, good line, and he is out there. 6% on Yahoo, 46 on Fantrax, and I'm sure it's similar on ESPN. I don't actually know. Let me bring up what Seattle's looking like down the stretch. The Seattle Kraken are kind of middle of the pack in terms of strength of schedule. Actually, that's a lie. They have a really tough schedule. They have the second toughest. So there's my only guy on this list that doesn't have a good schedule. So maybe buyer beware a little bit. But while he's getting a little bit more minutes, he's playing with McCann and Burakovsky, which I personally like because he's putting up points. I say take a look. Beautiful little week-to-week waiver ad in terms of streaming some offensive ability. But I think Shane Wright deserves a lot of credit for a really good season so far.
He definitely does. And I think, we could definitely turn the page on a few guys. I know personally I've talked about Matty Beniers not being there yet. He's turned the page a little bit in 2025. Capo Caco as well after being traded from the New York Rangers early on in the season. Those are 3 young guys right there. I want to even throw in LV Tolvanen as well. 4 guys in Seattle who I think can really take a step forward production-wise, fantasy value-wise, going into the 2025-26 season. So it's nice to kind of picture them and keep an eye on them now, write them in your notebook for later when the draft comes around. Keep them on your eyes, keep them on your mind in the waiver wire process is moving forward. I've got 3 guys, and I'm just going to throw them out there because you can't really go in depth on them. But 3 guys, I think it's a really good opportunity, especially now with the break, to keep your eyes peeled for the guys returning from injury. I've got 3 people in mind: Evander, Kane, Valeri, Nichushkin, as well as Boone Jenner coming back after this Four Nations face-off week. I think those are 3 guys to keep an eye on at least. Nichushkin is rostered below 35% in both ESPN and Yahoo leagues. Boone Jenner under 20%. Evander Kane hasn't even seen the ice right now, so that might be a little bit of a long shot. But like we said, you want to get a piece of some of these guys on the better teams. Evander Kane did have surgery, I believe, mid-January. He's still going to be out 4 to 8 weeks, so he's still, has like a week or two left before he actually starts skating potentially. I just think it's interesting to keep his name in the back of your mind for when he does come back. But those are 3 guys injured who are supposed to be coming back after the Four Nations face-off.
Boone Jenner has been one of those guys over the last couple of years that fantasy darling just can't stay healthy. When he's in there, he scores goals, he mixes it up with hits. He's a leader. He's usually also pretty solid in terms of adding a little bit of value with peripheral coverage. He's not afraid to mix it up at times. Last year, 119 hits. This season, obviously, completely derailed with another serious injury. This guy has played only 2 full regular seasons out of the 11 in his career, and the last time was 2017. So that's definitely the only angle with Boone Jenner, but we know what we like in Columbus. We know what's going on with their offensive group and all of the young Russian talent that they got pulsating through that top 6 group. Really like that you're bringing up these injury angles. Dig into the trenches, people. It's time to get dirty.
That's what we do. We try to give you some winning picks and some winning players for those weekly matchups. Those are the best targets for this week off. You can never do as much, practice and practice for these waiver wire targets. That's what we try to do, help you out with your weekly matchups. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, please check out the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with the Four Nations. Hopefully your country comes back with the win. Good luck with those bets, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.